Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the Sunrise on the Inside podcast, a space where we share inspiring interviews and stories from thoughtful leaders in business, health and wellness, entrepreneurship, and sports. Here, we talk about tools, habits, routines, and tactics they use that help them feel calm, revived, and rebalanced whenever they face challenges in life. I'm your host, Nico Estrella, a serial entrepreneur, former professional soccer player, and co-founder of Waku. Our guest today is a very good friend of Waku who we met at Mass Challenge, who is an amazing entrepreneur. He is Ryan Gresh, the founder and CEO of the Feel Good Lab, a natural pain cream company that is giving the over-the-counter pain relief category a much-needed makeover with their all-natural plant-based formulations based on decades of clinical experience. Ryan is a relentless problem solver with a passion for high-growth business with a social impact. That is what you get when you combine a degreed mechanical engineer with executive level business experience and a family history of functional medicine and compounding pharmacy. The Feel Good Lab is the culmination of that passion. In today's episode, we talk about the importance of mentors, functional natural medicine, and how to cultivate the right mindset to be able to see the silver lining in the middle of challenging situations. I learned a lot in today's conversation, so I hope you enjoy as much as I did. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Sunrise on the Inside podcast. I have with me today one of my very good friends, Ryan Gresh from the Feel Good Lab. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, Nico. Great to be here. I love that this is episode number 2 as well. Getting in early.
Episode number 2. We are excited, and I am excited for our conversation today. I thought I wanted to start first with having a little bit more background from I know that you went to University of Connecticut and you did a mechanical engineer.
Yep.
You studied that, right? I was thinking, and I think for me, it seems not a very natural transition from being a mechanical engineer to becoming an entrepreneur. So I just wanted to ask you, how was that transition, and what made you become an entrepreneur?
Totally. I think I look back on it now and I'm 34 and I'm like, well, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I had no idea how the journey would end up bringing me here because I did spend about a decade as an engineer in the aerospace industry after college. So it took me a long time to figure it out. And honestly, it was more of an opportunity. And I'm sure we'll talk about it in a little bit how the Feel Good Lab came about. But for me, honestly, I became an engineer because I was really good at Legos and math. So it was like the weirdest thing, right? I didn't really know that it was a huge decision in my life when I was a senior in college going to the guidance counselor. And she's like, you're really good at math and awful at English, by the way, which are typical characteristics of engineers. And I'm like, oh, cool. I would like to go build things, learn how to build things. That was just really appealing to me. I applied to one school, the University of Connecticut. It was one of those things. And I barely even got in. It's not like I was a straight A student. So in hindsight, engineering was one of the best things I ever did for myself for a couple of reasons. It's a degree, I think that, it's pretty challenging. It's really challenging, but it teaches you problem solving. It doesn't just teach you how to go through different equations. It's more of a way to think about things. And to me, it's the ultimate entrepreneurial mindset because, right, it's like we're dealing with problems all day, every day. Well, they're just really things that we will find solutions for. They're not really problems. And that's the engineering mindset. And so I thought I was going to school to do things like design helicopters and jet engines. Like I had these big aspirations. And my first job, I'll never forget, it was at Sikorsky Aircraft. So it was at a place that makes helicopters. It was like a dream job. But I'm thinking I'm in the airframe design program, right? And I'm ready to go design my helicopter. And I literally had to work on a bolt on the helicopter for like 7 months. And even before that, it's like onboarding. And some of the stuff I was working on were hand drawn on Mylar paper. It was unbelievable. So I'm like erasing. It was one of the funniest things of all time because my expectation was I've made it. It's time to go design helicopters. And the reality of what it was like to be an engineer, I'm like, oh my God, this is not me at all.
That is super cool.
Yeah. And that doesn't really answer your question, but it kind of tells you a little bit about like how naive I was back then. And the reality is that's what led to my decision. It was kind of just like, oh, okay, my talents mixed with what the guidance counselor told me would be a well-paying job.
Yeah,
after college.
and it's crazy that you stayed. I didn't know that you were working for 10 years in that
Yeah.
industry. Uh,
But the key part is there, I didn't stay in that role for very long. And I quickly opened up my own business. I learned that I wasn't a typical engineer. I like to get out and talk to people too much and be kind of on the customer side and really like the sales and marketing side. So I started my own company where I interfaced with companies like Sikorsky and Pratt Whitney. And I worked for the suppliers to help solve the problems and go find suppliers that could make the parts. And that was awesome. And that was really great. I had a mentor there. His name was Rick Post, amazing guy. He changed my life and really taught me what it was like to kind of own your own business, own your own, profit and loss. And then is when the opportunity for the Feel Good Lab came about. And so I was at home at dinner one day. This is about 6 years ago, and my dad, who is a pharmacist and somebody I've always looked up to, but when I grew up, he worked so much at the pharmacy that we owned. Now I know it's because he couldn't afford to hire a pharmacist. But back then, I'm like, I want nothing to do with this field. Now, fast forward 30 years, he's actually helping people. He's like the happiest guy ever to work with. I'm so fortunate to be able to work with him. But it's the reason I went into engineering. Meanwhile, it's the family business. My grandpa was a pharmacist, my aunts and uncles. My brother's even a pharmacist who's 6 years younger, who saw the new age of my dad when he got into this new type of pharmacy. But long story short, my dad was talking about a product he had developed at the pharmacy that was helping people just in ways that he had never seen before. And it was all natural and could be made to sell over the counter. Now, this was 6 years ago. We had no idea how hard it would be to get FDA approval and a patent and packaging and all the different things that come with it. But that's what kicked off this entrepreneurial journey for me. I had my fairly successful business in the aerospace world. And my dad tells this story, and I go, Dad, we can do this. We can make a company. This is it. And we created the Feel Good Lab kind of out of that excitement. And
so
it's been a long journey.
before we dive more into the story of the Feel Good Lab, because I would love to dive more into all that genesis story and the first years of the Feel Good Lab. I have a couple follow up questions from what you just said. So you mentioned this mentor that you have. Where did you meet this mentor? Who was this mentor?
Yeah, it was my younger brother's best friend's dad's best friend. So I became close. My brother was playing a lot of basketball at the time, and I'd go to all the games and sit with this gentleman. And he said, you'd be great in this sales type of role, being an interface, because you know the customer so well, but you're so outgoing and really enjoy interacting with people. And you have the engineering background to understand the technical aspects that are being accomplished. So I'm like, okay, sure. And he introduced me to his great friend, who we worked together for about 5 years. And this guy, it was he made his name over the course of the last 30 years. It was a different time back then in the way you kind of do sales and whatnot. But I learned more from him than probably anybody else in my life. And he was amazing and so talented at just making people want to do work with him. That was really the biggest skill that I learned.
And I think that speaks a little bit to the importance of having a mentor early on that can help you realize about your talents and about your skills. Because I was about to tell you that, like, since the first time I met you, I know that you have a very great skills for communication, for talking with people, and just like making connections. You're such a good people person. Uh, so yeah, it's very interesting to see that it was not as apparent for you when you were starting your career.
Big time. This guy, literally, if you saw me before I worked with him, I was a fraction of the energy that I am today. And he taught me that.
That is crazy. I love that story. And the other follow up question that I have, I know I met your dad Jim in the mass challenge
Yep,
ceremony. I remember he came for the ceremony, and now he's such an amazing guy. It's so interesting to just you can be speaking with him hours and hours about business, about pharmacy. He's so passionate about what he does.
totally.
So I am very curious to know how was it like? How were those years whenever you were growing up with him? Um, because I know that, of course, we know that having a business it's like a very time consuming endeavor. And my dad was also like uh, an entrepreneur. Maybe he was not like a sophisticated entrepreneur. He was never like into one industry, But I remember like growing up, and my dad was always like in any type of business. He was just like a very like entrepreneur. I always say like he was an entrepreneur without having gone to business school. So without being like knowing all the skills and knowing all the things that you need to like really scale a business. But I think I got a lot from him just by watching him solving problems and just like being an
Mhm.
entrepreneur when I was a kid. So I wanted to ask you, how was it like when you were a kid, and how was how was living with your dad being a farmer?
Well, I didn't appreciate it at all. But now in hindsight, A, it's the reason I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur and work for myself because I didn't you don't realize what you have until you see other perspectives. So like growing up, you're blind to it. I despised it because he was never home because what I didn't know at the time was he risked everything to open this pharmacy and it was right before CVS and Walgreens showed up at every corner. So the margin in the industry went from say 33% to 27%. I'm making up the numbers, but it's something like that. And his business plan went from being able to have a successful, thriving business to not be able to afford to even hire a pharmacist. So open 24/7 and run the business and all this. And I didn't know what he had invested and put on the line to make this happen. Meanwhile, I was just born when it all started out. So for me, I'm like, well, this job stinks. I don't want to do this. You have to work all the time. Literally 24/7 was work. The only time I'd see him is I'd go to work with him, and I worked with him all the time. It was kind of cool. But the big lesson that I learned and that I take with me now is like this idea of infinite responsibility. No matter what happens, you just have to figure it out. And you're on the line, you're next on the line. So there's no like playing victim or blaming other people at the end of the day. And the problems that were being dealt with when I'd go to work, some of them are day to day things, but some of them are big time problems. So I got to see that and I got to just see how, like, you don't freak out. I'm sure you guys have the same thing. Honestly, our job is to deal with problems. And the bigger we get, the bigger the problems are going to get. So we want to hope for bigger problems because that means we're really kicking butt. But they're like, they don't have to be that scary if finding a great solution to them is like you have that kind of attitude. And that's the thing that I took away from it is just it's going to get done. It's going to be okay. Things are not that overwhelming. Like, really, what is hard? I think hard was our ancestors. They had like real hard or like going to war. We have the easiest lives of all time,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
oh
And
yeah, I
even,
totally agree.
you probably have dealt with real hardship in your life. That's harder than this entrepreneurial stuff.
Yeah, well, I think it has added a bit of complexity being an immigrant founder here in the US. But I totally agree with what you said. I think I'm also very thankful that I haven't really had to experience like real hardship because I've seen a lot of other people because I also came with, I think with a lot of privilege, I would say, because I was college educated. I had a network already open here. Fan was already in Babson, so it was hard, but I didn't came to build everything from the ground up. And like I already spoke English, so I think I agree with you in the sense that yeah, some days may feel that oh my god, this is so hard. Building a business is so freaking hard. But then if you put it in perspective and you see all like the, the comfort that we can have and all like the tools that we have available and it is it helps a lot to put the things in perspective to see like yeah okay it's hard but it could be way harder.
Totally.
Yeah. So and then but when I met Jim I remember he was super happy. I remember that was one of
Oh,
the things that I took away from that conversation. Like, just he has such a happy vibe, and he's just like a happy dude. What was he always like that whenever you were growing up, or when did this
no.
shift happen? Do you think?
I think the shift has happened more and more recently, but honestly, it's been since he sold the pharmacy and got into what he does now, which is functional medicine and compounding pharmacy. It's totally different. Before, he basically worked for the pharmaceutical companies and the doctors, just pushing pills and was seeing people were not getting better and was working all the time. So, all of that stacked up was not very happy. It wasn't that fun. Then he realized I can actually help people. And so he became one of the nation's first functional medicine practitioners, but also compounding pharmacists. So he had the ability to work with practitioners and doctors to make customized medicine, because the functional medicine philosophy is we're all unique humans. We don't just need these one size fits all pills. In fact, we need less pills, is the big model. How do we solve these chronic conditions through lifestyle changes? Because the reality is a lot of them are the root cause of 30 years of eating very unhealthy and being exposed to toxins and sleeping poorly and being stressed out. Those are really the root cause of almost all the disease. And it's not that simple. And the changes you have to make are hard. But now what he does is works with patients relentlessly to find the root cause of their problems, and they have success. Things that like almost seem impossible. Certain people with the right persistence, it takes a long time, but have seen, things like osteoporosis, things that are in the clinical, in the normal model, seem impossible. I believe our bodies are like capable of almost anything when they're in homeostasis, you know, and we are what we eat. I think it's one of the big pillars. That's why I love your brand and your product so much. Because it's so critical. I think we're going to go, it's getting more and more, but I think at some point we're going to learn that food is an energy source for us and makes us feel a certain way and live a certain way and not a drug.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree. And for me, that was one of the biggest cultural shocks, I would say, whenever I came here. The difference in the lifestyle and the difference in the diet here in the US, it's very stark. Like in Ecuador, I remember like when I was growing up, if I have stomach aches or if I was feeling a bit anxious, like the remedy was like my mom brewing herbal tea of valerian or herbal tea of chamomile. And it's like all those natural things that it's like just like starts to change and like reducing the amount of sugar that we were eating and just like trying to eat very natural, very natural diets, I would say. And I think also people in Ecuador, it's way more chill. Like it's just like people are super relaxed and
Less stress.
less stressed in Ecuador. So I do think that it's a very different lifestyle here in the US, but also I love that here in the US there are so many companies like the Feel Good Lab that are starting to lead this new generation of not only in the food business but also in like medicines and lotions and because everything matters, everything that you put in your body really matters and really makes a difference.
Totally.
So for the people that doesn't know about the Feel Good Lab, tell us a little bit more. What do you do, guys, at the Feel Good Lab?
Sure. And since we've got a little background on my dad, the Feel Good Lab is really taken what he's built in his functional medicine practice and pharmacy and his decades of formulating medicine, some prescription, some non, and bringing it to market. And that's really how the Feel Good Lab was born. And so he was having success treating chronic pain with some amazing topical and transdermal formulations, which are through the skin, which means in chronic pain or any chronic condition, we know that side effects are one of the major issues with the type of medication we're taking, because you have to typically take it orally, which exposes your whole body to it. Well, if you could deliver the same medicine through the skin transdermally, you could have the localized impact you need to on the area, but without these side effects. And he was an expert in this. And so we really took what he had developed in his pharmacy and created a brand around it, which is called the Feel Good Lab. And our first product is a natural pain cream. So it was really the base that he was using for some of the pharmaceuticals. And we learned that we were getting better results with the pharmaceutical taken out. The pharmaceutical were things like ketoprofen, which is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, or even ketamine, which when taken orally has pretty crazy psychoactive effects. Well, ketamines can be used locally, transdermally, to help with pain relief. So by removing this, all of a sudden, that was the breakthrough in the story that I heard at dinner that night of, hey, we had a patient call back to the pharmacy. We had made a prototype of just the base formula, the natural formula. And we had a patient that was spending hundreds of dollars a month on pain medicine. For years, they were working with her and nothing had worked. And she called back in tears because this was the first thing that ever worked. And so for me, it was this anecdotal story. It means nothing. It doesn't even mean it could be the placebo effect, could be all these things. But I'm like, if we could impact one person's life like that, we could really build a brand around it. And that's why I was willing to kind of throw everything away in the past decade in the aerospace industry and go all in this and build the brand and create the brand that, you know, we just talked about the world needs right now, that's focused on these other things. It's about being healthy, living well, and using products that don't make us sick. And we don't think that over-the-counter pain relievers should make us sick. And it's one of the biggest issues right now. Opioid epidemic is huge, and we know that. And there's a place for opioids in treating, you know, severe acute pain. But chronic pain and opioid use just don't go together. And it's one of the reasons we have the epidemic. The same can be said about non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. You know, 60% of our customers, and these are people that are already finding our brand, so they're pretty people that want to be healthy, they take oral pain medicines every day, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. And it's not, they're safe to use, but when you take them every single day, the potency goes down because you build up a tolerance. So you need to take more. And when you need to take that much, they do cause some side effects, and some more severe than others. It's not in everybody, but one of the number one reasons for ER visits in the United States is GI bleeds. And one of the leading causes for GI bleeds is overuse of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. So it's an epidemic, not just on the opioid side, but in just pain management in general. You know, more and more people are in pain, and there's less and less things that are really working, especially on the chronic pain side. And that's what we plan to fix. The first tenet of functional medicine is do no harm. We removed all the junk out of the other OTC topicals. They were packed with synthetic preservatives, carbomer, rubbing alcohol, all these things, especially the topical side, because they were, you know, we're talking ingestibles have some side effects, but a lot of the OTC topicals were formulated decades ago. This was way before the modern trend of natural cosmetics and organic topicals and whatnot. Yeah. So when we saw that, we're like, okay, first and foremost, we're removing all of this stuff. And then we built our formula around these core functional ingredients that we knew served a purpose from what we had in my dad's pharmacy. Some of them are there to help penetrate the skin, like aloe vera and menthol, and even water is really helpful. Some of them are there for specific purposes. And we have to be careful about the claims that we make because we are regulated as an OTC drug because we have 1.25% menthol. And menthol is, you know, gives you kind of that minty smell, but 1.25% is about 10% of what most of the products on the market have. So it's actually only a small amount of what we're trying to deliver to you. 98.75% of our formula are all ingredients that you can feel good about, right? It's natural preservatives. Yeah, all of those things. You know, that's what you guys do.
Yeah. No, and I've used the Feel Good Lab a bunch of times whenever I am having like, I am starting kind of like an injury or like I'm starting to have like some pain. I think that I really got into the new formulation, the one for sports recovery.
Nice.
After just like exercising or going for runs. I think so. As I played a lot of soccer when I was younger, I think my knees are just like a mess right now. So every time I go to like even a 20-minute run, 30-minute run, my knees get like swollen and I just like have a lot of knee pain. And then it's when like I use the Feel Good Lab and it really helped. It's very, very, very good. And I know that I like it a lot because I know that what I am putting is super natural. And I love how is the combination of both things.
Cool. That's a great testimonial.
Yeah,
appreciate
it. I really like it, man. Hey, just a quick pause for a message from Waku, and we will be right back to the interview. We are very excited to let everyone know we've just launched Waku's crowdfunding equity campaign through Republic, a platform that allows anyone to invest in private startups like Waku. Waku is now part of a very exclusive group of highly vetted startups from Republic, and now you can become an investor of Waku starting with investments as small as $100. If you'd like to learn more about why to invest in Waku and why this is such a great investment opportunity, you can go to republic.co/Waku. That's republic.co/WAKU. We will be thrilled to have you join us in our journey to bring to the world the most refreshing herbal tea with gut health benefits and help to create impact in the livelihoods of hundreds of Ecuadorian farmers. let's get back to the show.
All these clients, I'm no longer working with them anymore. And one of them sold, and a whole bunch of things happened where it made it really easy. Um, so it was just, yeah, just the stars aligned, and I was able to just kind of move on over to this side. We never knew, like the first day that we quit our jobs, because it was not just me who quit. There was three of us at the time. First day we quit our jobs, we had already gotten the brand up and running on Amazon, and it was 95% of our revenues. We were just getting our website built out, and so we got banned from Amazon because they banned like all the nutritional supplements that were making claims. Now we were an OTC drug and legally can make claims around pain, but they don't know that. And so they were banning all these different listings, and we couldn't get back on. So we were at lunch cheersing on a Friday, quitting our jobs, and we get the alert. And I think it was such a lesson into like, the universe saying, look, what you're in for is not really to go celebrate, it's to work really hard. And there's going to be a lot of things, a lot worse things are going to happen to you. At the time, this was by far the worst thing that ever happened. And it took us weeks to get back on. We learned a big important lesson though, is we can't put all our eggs in one basket. And so we really focused on making sure not just Amazon and our website, but not just e-commerce, looking at other channels and making sure we had a multi-channel approach, because having all our eggs in one basket doesn't give us a lot of options. And we learned that we were at zero revenue for 3 weeks.
But I love how much, like, for me, a big thing that I try to focus on every day as an entrepreneur is of course, is taking care of my mindset, but also taking care of like what's the perspective that I am having on the things that happen to me in the business. Because like if you don't have the right perspective at that point at the beginning, for example, you can very easily say like, oh my god, this is a sign of the universe that's telling me like this is not the right way to go. I should just stop it right now, because if like the first day just everything it's ruined, I should just like stop. But that shift in perspective, like I think that's crucial to just like keep going as an entrepreneur.
And neither of us are right? Like we don't actually know. So it's just, what do you want to make of it? Do you want to make it a sign that the universe is saying get out? Or do you want to make it a sign that the universe is saying this is going to be hard and we're testing you and seeing how bad you really want this? I choose to be the latter, and that's just always how I've been. I think it's a blessing and a curse. But honestly, I would have quit a long time ago if I couldn't see the silver lining and the optimism in everything. And that's, I think, one of my superpowers. I take the worst news and I figure out a way to make it good news.
That's a great superpower. I think every time you're trying to do something that's hard, it's either entrepreneurship or becoming an artist, trying to do anything that it's difficult in life. Of course, you're gonna face a lot of challenges. So I think it's very key to be able to cultivate this right perspective in life. For you, what do you think made you like that? Do you think you were just like you were born with this superpower of being able to just like shift the perspective, or
My mom,
yeah,
totally.
why? Like
If anybody knows her, they just know that she's just always happy and optimistic. Always.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also think that for me, I think my dad was for me like. He was always optimistic about like every business that he was starting. He always had the expectation that it was gonna work and like, the problems were just things to be solved. So I think it was very important for me that how I grew up basically with my parents to have this right perspective.
Yeah. I would say entrepreneurship has made me more realistic. You know, you also don't know what you don't know. So when you're optimistic, I'm thinking grandiose, and then you get there and you realize that's not how the world works. Just like with my first job, thinking I'm going to go design helicopters. Like, what?
Yeah.
No, you're going to make a bolt for 20 years, and then maybe you can be on a team that helps design a helicopter.
Yeah, I remember when we talked with Juan, my business partner, a lot about how naive we were whenever we started Waku. And I think we always say this as half joke, half not. Like every time you just like throw yourself to the market, a lot of times the market is just gonna punch you in the stomach and just like make you learn the hard way that not everything is gonna just like be as easy as you think it's at the beginning. So I also think I am still very a very optimistic person. But I think as you get more experience, of course, you learn to have like your feet in the ground, so to say.
Totally. And for me, it just like doesn't, the bad stuff doesn't hurt as much. But I think what I have to be careful of is like it's hard to celebrate. So like the wins don't matter as much and the challenges don't hurt as much. But I think it's important to not be stuck in that kind of stoic, like, I think it's important to celebrate the wins and it's important to take the losses and really feel them so you don't make the make mistakes again.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. I think yeah, I totally agree. And for me, uh, I think in the toughest times that we've had on Waku, I think one of the biggest things that have helped me to like keep going has been celebrating every win. I think when like things are super bad and like the business was going under, it was very tough to have a big win. So of course, it's like, a lot of times it's just like super easy to you just close a big deal with CVS or with Market Basket or with a big chain, and it's very easy to celebrate those big wins because they are super apparent. But in these tough times, when you don't have like a very apparent huge win, it can get very hard because it's just like you're just looking at the problem and you're just looking at the every day that the bank account is depleting and it's very easy to get lost in that. Just like things are getting too hard. So I think uh, one thing that I was doing when things were getting hard for Waku was okay. What are the daily small victories that we're having as a company? And for us, it was just like having one customer texting us saying like, "Oh my God, your product changed my life. Like I'm just drinking Waku every day, and it helped me so much for my digestion." Uh, and just like putting that and showing that to the team, and just like putting those small victories and really celebrating them. Like, oh, we are in the right path, guys. We just have to keep going. Or even small things like, oh my God, we figured out how to ship the bottles without them breaking. And it's just like a very small win that nobody cares about but you. But it's just like it became very important for us to just celebrate those small wins.
Yeah, I think the team and the culture is probably the most important thing to building a company. And I have not figured it out yet. I just have figured out that it's the most important thing. And so I look at you guys, and I look forward to learning more because I see from the outside, and it feels like the type of team and culture that I want and aspire to build at the Feel Good Lab. So kudos. Hopefully, it's as good behind the curtain as it looks from the outside.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate the kind words. And I think this is actually a good segue to the next question that I had for you. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think has been one of the biggest challenges you faced so far? It can be yourself personally or in your journey by building the Feel Good Lab. Uh,
Yeah, I think that every time I look back over the past each year and I want to answer this, it honestly a new answer emerges. And I think there's two reasons for that. One, your perspective shifts. So the other things that used to matter just don't matter anymore. There were things that impacted me so bad, devastated, right? Like couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, that I look back on now and I'm like, I can't believe I reacted that way. So you mentioned it earlier with perspective. I think that's the most important thing I've learned is that we lack the perspective to really judge these things that happen in the immediate, especially with all the emotion that's going on. But and at the same time also the perspective of this isn't that hard. Even, we've been sued. We've been I've had, partner issues and all these sort of things that really have made me stress and lose sleep, but they're not that important actually in the big scheme of things at all. And I try to have that perspective because honestly, where we want to go, there's just going to be way bigger problems than what we've ever experienced to date. So we're not scared of them. We look forward to them.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. Luckily, knocking on wood, we haven't been sued so far. But all those challenges, all those things that you mentioned, if you don't manage them correctly, they can be potentially just like they can just kill your company. One of those things that, of course, once you know how to deal with those problems, they can seem small, but
Totally.
they at the moment I can tell that those things just seem super hard to overcome. And when you're facing these type of challenges, what do you do? Like, what do you have any routines that you do? Like, what helps you stay focused in the important things, or what do you think helps you stay calm and grounded whenever you face those challenges?
The two things, usually I get really quiet and stay to myself for a day or two and really think about, I just think nonstop. But I have the opposite is really true because I have a couple of people close to me, my wife and my dad, but also other friends that are really close that I call and tell. And they, you know, I can trust them. I tell them the whole details. And it's just like, just having people on your side in your corner, regardless of anything else, people that you could say the worst thing ever to, and they're in your corner. So I just call them and then I kind of curl up in a ball for as little bit of time as I can to internalize it and figure out what we're going to do and then move on past it. It's just, and now it gets shorter and shorter. Like the first couple times, it took me a day to get over things. Now I can try to get over it in a few hours.
Love that. Yeah, no, I think that's the importance of having the right community and just surrounding yourself with the right people. So important.
Totally.
Such a big
In,
difference.
in fact, when some of the biggest challenges in the past year happened to me, you and Juan were huge helps.
I'm really glad to
So
hear, man. Thank you so much for that, man. Yeah, it's super important. Yeah, I agree with that. For me, I think my just even having a friend that probably friends that are not even business partners that don't understand 100% what you're going through, but just having someone that you can just talk it through and just like get it out of your system.
Mhm.
It's so important for me too.
And I think important part about that is it's not complaining. Because I think one of the skills, like I think of the best entrepreneurs I know, and I've never heard them complain about anything. And I probably complain more than they do for sure, but I think it's important to try to never complain. Because again, it comes to the responsibility thing. Even when things are going awful, at the end of the day, if you're going to be the founder of a business or a co-founder, you need to take the final responsibility. And no matter who messes up, you messed up.
Yeah.
All the time.
And you made me remember of because I used to live with Juan, so we were roommates 1 year ago, and we loved our apartment. It was amazing. Like we were always having amazing people over. Like the vibe of the house was like very nice. We really loved our apartment. And I remember when the pandemic hit and the business started to suffer a lot, there were a couple months where the things got super tough. Like we really thought that we were gonna have to close the business. And I remember that during it was probably a period of like a month or so that at first we didn't realize this, but uh, we were complaining with Juan a lot, and we were just like just complaining about everything. It was just like, oh my god, like these investors of us that lost the trust in us, and like we were super close to close a big deal with the star market, and we were like complaining that didn't happen, and complaining about like we were stuck with so much product. Um, but we realized that it got because I remember that one day. I think the things that started to accumulate, and I think the energy that we started to build between me and Juan, and of course the company was just like kind of like this negative view on things. And I think that the things started to accumulate. And I remember that one day we just like got into a fight with Juan. I don't remember exactly what was it about, but it was nothing huge. It was just like a small thing, and we just like kind of like exploded both of us. And then after that, we just took like a second, and like of course it took like a day or so to just like think about the things, and we were like, what's happening, like what's going on, why did this explode like this? Because we normally, like, of course we have discussions, and not every time we agree on the things, but it never gets into like like fights, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
but that time it happened, and we were like, okay, like let's take a step back and let's reflect, because what I think for us it's always been like our partnership is very important, so we make like conscious effort of taking care of the partnership and taking care of the relationship itself, because sometimes we see it as like it's bigger than the business, because Waku, the products of Waku today, maybe anything can happen, but if the partnership is stronger, that you can keep continuing as a business partnership for the next 50 years, and then it just kind of becomes stronger as you go. So I remember we took this time off and we said like, okay, what's happening? And we realized that we were allowing these kind of like negative talk to be part of our daily lives, and we didn't realize it. And it was just like uh, all those everyday conversations of just like complaining and complaining and complaining. Just it kind of like shifted our perspective. Maybe just like it was in the back of our head. So I remember at that point we came into an agreement that we were saying, okay, we're not gonna complain anymore. Like next time we see a problem happening in the company or whatever, even if you don't believe it, we're just gonna say, okay, this is an opportunity for something, or just like laugh about it, or just like kind of like shifting how we're talking about those problems. And I think that helped to change a little bit the perspective that we started to have. And at the beginning, we really didn't believe it. And like, of course, a lot of advices were telling us things like crises are always the best teachers. You're gonna see that it's gonna create the best opportunities for you. And at that point, we were like, no, we were not believing that. We were like, yeah, maybe for other companies, not for we're just not gonna make it. But whenever we make this shift, little by little, we started to really believe it ourselves, and like really started to believe like, okay, this can really be an opportunity to just shift the business model of the company. And at the end, it really did, and it helped us at the end. But of course, at that moment, was so hard. It was just like, and we was starting to get super hard. So I really like that.
I believe that you have to go through the experience, not be told by someone. People can tell you all the time that you need to show up like that. You need to go through and see the repercussions of doing it. You'll never do it again. And that's why I think we're so blessed to be on this entrepreneurial journey, because it's really about just jumping off the bridge into life and figuring out what happens and taking these risks. And that to me is the whole experience. Like whether we get, I read this really cool quote. I thought about it for days because it really messed with me. It said, success and failure lead to the same thing, dissatisfaction. The only difference is the route you take to get there. And it made me think like, oh my God, you're totally right. Whether you win or lose, you end up being dissatisfied with your end result anyways. When you fail to get and then overcome it and get there, you learn a lesson. When you succeed, you think you know why you succeeded. Many times you don't actually know the real reason. Lightning struck and there was this crazy reason, and you sit back and think you can write a book on it. Everyone has their own unique journey. And so it made me think, wow, maybe the failures are more blessings than the successes in our unique experiences.
Yeah,
There's just a different way to frame it. I'm not saying it's true, but it made me think like, okay, cool. If I was going to write this path of perseverance, it would include these big failures that we overcome and we fix. We never make the mistakes again because we learn the root cause of that failure. We make the mistakes ourselves. We're like, I can never do that again.
yeah,
That's what entrepreneurship's about.
yeah. And I also think that that's one of my favorite things about entrepreneurship, and I think it can apply for not only entrepreneurs but anyone that's there trying to find a better job or uh, find a better, like getting a better relationship or getting a relationship or like anything out there. It's like I think it talks a bit to the importance of just like showing up. And I think I really like entrepreneurship because it kind of forces you to just show up every day, even if you don't know all the answers, even if you know that you are undercapitalized, underhanded. It kind of like I see it as a game almost, and for me, entrepreneurship is this game of like showing up every day to try your best. So I think it's important in everybody's life to find this thing that forces you to show up, forces you to just like put yourself out there because that's where you are gonna grow the most. I think.
Totally.
Either sports. I remember that for me, soccer was that when I was younger. Uh, but it was just like these things. Like I can see like one year ago, I was such a different person than what I am right now. Like I felt I've grown so much as a person personally, as a businessman, as an entrepreneur. The partnership grew, and it was because we were showing up. Like I know that if you are, I don't know, if you are very comfortable in you're in a 9 to 5 job, and you're not pushing yourself, maybe you are still the same person that you were one year ago. So because you're not
Mhm.
exposing yourself enough to new challenges and new things and to this journey that you were talking about, like
Yeah, and you're showing up the right way because I mean, same with us. This podcast is called Sunrise on the Inside. If you don't show up like that in everything you do, can you actually have a podcast named that? No. I know that you show up like that. That's why I have no doubt about it. And I think you guys are going to do great with this. My company's called the Feel Good Lab. And I have a coach I work with. He goes, we're talking about some things. I'm not always super optimistic. I sometimes have, and he goes, Ryan, if you can't show up feeling good, then who are you to be the CEO and founder of the Feel Good Lab? You're a phony then. You have to bring that right energy. And that's the thing that like it takes you kind of going into some of those darker places to realize, no, it is optimistic. We can all feel good. We can beat this. We can be persistent. It's just about opportunity meets preparation. That's luck. We got to stay persistent. We're right there. I feel like you and I both and Juan, we're going to be 7-year overnight successes because we're going into year 7 right now.
yeah, yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with that, and yeah, it's super important to like making it in a way that's authentic to you. I think that's important of what you just said right now. Uh, for us, this idea of sunrise on the inside is that it's like that sense of optimism that every day you're gonna show up whatever happens in that day, but every day you can start with a new optimism, with a new that sense you get in the sunrise basically. And for us right now, the podcast, I think I am learning a bit more about like being a brand more than just like just like trying to sell products. I think one very important thing that I've been learning in the past months is that like we as founders are the brand. This podcast is part of the brand. The products that we sell, the bottles carry the brand. I think I used to see it as a more like, okay, just like this is my product. These are the benefits of my product. You should buy it. But now I think I really like to see our journey as entrepreneurs as like it's kind of like just a tool to be able to help more people to have better lives, basically. And of course, Waku makes these helps you in the gut health and just like will make you feel calm and revived and all these things. But also, I think like these conversations that we're having, I know that probably someone out there it's just like needing to listen in what like our conversation that we're having, and maybe one piece of advice or one piece of like the experiences that we've had can help them in their journey and can help them feel calm and just like stay optimistic whenever they are facing something hard. So I really like that you touch upon that. Like, okay, we have kind of like that responsibility as business founders to carry that idea as well in our personal lives, and just like make that effort of okay showing up in an authentic way, and kind of like embodying that brand and that idea. I think.
Especially because we have wellness companies.
Yeah.
So it's even more so important for us. And I think that we can impact people maybe even more through this kind of stuff than we can with the best products in the world. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. I'm really enjoying this journey of starting this podcast. It's something that still feels a bit new for me. So I know that the podcast will keep becoming better as we go. But I think for me it's gonna be just like super important to always have a very thoughtful leader that as you, and just try to have this, because I know that we will be having the same conversation if we were just like drinking some beers right now and just like eating something. I think that's like the, the core idea of this podcast. I want it to be just like this conversation with other friends and learning from their experiences, because I know that I am learning a lot today, and I hope a lot of people is learning too. I know that they're gonna take a lot of our conversation today. So thank you so much, Ryan, for being here today. I wanted to ask you: is there any new project or any exciting thing that's happening right now with the Feel Good Lab that you would like to share with the audience today?
Yeah. I'm going to answer that question the opposite way because I suffer from shiny object syndrome. What that means is I always get so excited about new ideas and new things. And in fact, I have the perfect answer to this because we are working on something that's got me excited. But honestly, what I'm going to answer with is focusing on the core things that we already have. Really, what I've noticed is when I look at the business plan of what we need to get to where we want to go, it's not about the new ideas. We have two amazing products. We have people that need them that we're not reaching right now. And so we need to stop focusing on the next big idea. I had a few things happen over the past few months where some things fell through. And it made me realize we were hoping on these other things that were going to come in and make all the difference when we have the difference maker right in front of us. Right in front of us. We have products that are game changing in the over the counter pain space. And so, as we look to get into more preventative wellness, things that people can take in the on the supplement side and the nutrition side to really live a holistic, well lifestyle, we're so fired up to expand our brand and make the Feel Good Lab more than just what we are in OTC pain. But we have to win here first. And so that's going to be my answer. Like, we're really focused and the whole team is super focused and dedicated to winning with what we have, and then the rest will follow. We have these amazing visions of locations that are combined my father's pharmacy and practice with other, think of a gym and recovery studio and a chiropractic office and a physical therapist, a real feel good lab where you can come and live this lifestyle. The funny thing is I actually did apply for trademarks yesterday for all of these things, for nutrition, for supplements, for foods, for clothes, for locations. So the answer is I'm always thinking about this and like what comes next. But we got to stay focused on what we have. We have some amazing products in hand right now. In fact, we're just getting a big production shipment this week. So it's either in today or on Monday. So it's time to sell and really get product that, patients the product that we have currently.
Exciting times, Ryan. Exciting times, my friend. Where can people learn more about the Feel Good Lab, and where can they connect with you if they would like to reach?
Yeah, you can. Me personally, if anybody wants to reach out to me personally, I'd be happy to chat. My email's ryan@thefeelgoodlab.com. And you can check us out online. Our website, we're on Amazon. We're sold kind of across the internet at different places. If you have a FSA, HSA card, you can get us on fsastore.com. And the Feel Good Lab's on different social channels. So give us a look. I hope you, if you are in chronic pain and have any questions, please reach out to us, and me or my father or brother, one of the pharmacists, the real experts, can get back to you. And so this was a lot of fun, Nico. I appreciate you, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming. It was really a pleasure to have you here. Talk to you soon, brother.
See you, bud.
Bye bye. Hello, everyone. This is Nico again, and just a few more things before you take off. If you'd like to be part of the Waku tribe to be the first one to know about the launch of exclusive flavors, special promotions, and content about health and wellness, just go to livewaku.com, that's livewaku.com, and sign up for our email list. And if you sign up, I hope you enjoy being part of our community.